In for Baccarat, and that goes in! Hugo Baccarat gives Flint City a 3-2. Buckley, the ball falls to Buckley. One-on-one with Etheridge. What a save!
Welcome into the first ever MSN All-State Media Day for girls soccer. Jonathan Turner alongside Dan Stickrat.
Ball comes in, a good hit! 1-0! Shot, another save from Etheridge! Rebound, and it goes in the back of the net. The Bulldogs up 1-0! Burzma, looking for Vlasma! 3-0! Stewart Heights with a shot! Upper 90 and in!
Effectively today here on the Michigan Soccer Network, we are launching our new division of player recruitment videos.
Mario Canoe now finds Sock. Sock's got a left-footed banger. He shoots it, and it's in! The Red Hawks equalize!
Hello, everybody, and welcome into the MSYSA State Cup preview show for the quarterfinals beginning this Saturday morning, May the 18th, up at the Saginaw Soccer Complex. Dan, teams are playing for a chance to move on to semifinals and finals this weekend. Can you believe it?
It happened so quick. I mean, it just seems like a few weeks ago that it was snowing outside, and here we are. Club soccer's in the State Cup. High school is in state tournament right around the corner. It's a special time of year if you're a soccer fan in the state of Michigan.
It is an exciting time of the year. I mean, you are so excited. You're almost popping out of your chair, Dan. But no, I mean, all kidding aside, I remember State Cup growing up. It was obviously very different then than it is today. Back then, State Cup, you went up there actually for the entire weekend. And you played your games up there. Then it moved into these round robins. I think somewhere in the mid-'90s, it moved to this round robin where you had a bunch of games kind of throughout your season, and then you'd go and play in the State Cup quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals up in Saginaw. And I'll tell you, Dan, it was one of the most exciting times for me as a young athlete. Because, during the regular season, I don't know how many kids are thinking about, like, winning their league title, at the youth level. You know what I mean? I don't know how, but winning the State Cup, that's a big deal. It's a big deal, right?
Winning a state title in anything's a big deal. I mean, most kids never get a chance to ever do that. In club sports, high school sports, they never get a chance.
No. And when you win State Cup here in Michigan, you have a chance to punch your ticket into two separate places. One, President's Cup, which is one place. The other one is U.S. Soccer's Youth Regionals, Region 2, where you'll play in June for a chance to then play for a national championship at the youth level. And nothing is greater in youth sports than the United States Youth National Soccer National Championships that take place. And I was a part of a team that played in the national championships in Vardar back in 1998. So I'm just dating myself.
We've had quite a few Michigan teams end up winning the national championship over the last 30-plus years.
The Nationals Union, the girls' side, they won it consecutively, I think 2 years in a row. It might have even been 3 years that they were there in the finals. So again, it's nothing greater in youth sports than State Cup and with a chance to punch your ticket. Hey, and we got to give a shout out to the MSYSA. Tom Farrow and his team do a fantastic job of organizing this event, making sure it's got referees, it's got vendors, right? They've been working with the Saginaw Soccer Complex and that community for many, many years. It is one of the premier sporting events in Michigan, and Tom Farrow does a great job.
And you think about how many clubs in the state of Michigan there are for soccer. It's like 230-plus clubs. We'll talk about some of the bigger clubs that had more success so far in the round robin.
That's right. That
will enter the quarterfinals.
So there are a total, Dan, of 58 matches that will take place here between Saturday and Sunday in quarterfinals. There's some semifinals, and there are some teams that when we were given the list here by Ryan Thiessen, there are some teams that are still kind of going through this wild card phase, so we don't necessarily have all of the matchups. But at the bottom of your screen right now, you actually have our MSN flipper. All the schedule of games are actually rolling right there at the bottom of your screen. So what we're going to do here today is we're going to talk about some teams. We're going to talk about these matchups, and to be fair, there are 230 clubs in Michigan, so we don't know everything about your team and or your club. But what we will try and do over the next couple minutes here is to kind of get through the schedule of games here, starting with on Saturday morning, 8:30 in the morning. Now, Dan, this Saturday, we'll be getting ready for the Catholic League Finals at 8:30 in the morning. But all these teams at 8:30 will be getting ready to play in their opening matches here up in Saginaw. So Paddo's Magic Black 2009s will take on the Nationals Capital Area Boys Academy 09s in the U15 Boys Elite division. Also at that same time, a part of the U15 Boys Elite, Midwest United FC 09 will take on the Michigan Stars 09 in that same grouping. Liverpool FC will take on, of North Oakland County, will take on Michigan Tigers Elite at that same 8:30 time slot. And then the Michigan MFA Revolution will take on Liverpool, Michigan Ann Arbor 09s. And again, in that 2015 Boys Elite. So that's the pairing. That's the division. They're all going to play at the same time, kind of like in the World Cup, right, where you get to those semifinals. Teams are playing at the exact same time. They don't want to know what's happening. So these teams are all playing at the same time with a chance to play a little further on in their season.
But everything's at the same site, so that's a blessing. I mean, you can imagine trying to logistically conduct these tournaments every spring and fall and have the quarterfinals, semis, and finals at multiple locations.
It would be an unbelievable task, to say the least. Then kicking off in the boys' Premier Division, the Revolution 09s taking on Detroit City's Genesee side in that U15 matchup. National Macomb will take on Detroit City SC. Sorry, I just said National Macomb will take on Midland Fusion 09. They're the green side. Portage SC taking on Michigan Jaguars Northville. And then and that is the makeup of the 2015's Premier Group. I believe the Michigan Jaguars will also be taking on, Novi will take on Novi Parks SC 09 in that 8:30 time slot as well in that 15 boys Premier. Now taking a look here, Dan, at the 2019 Elite boys side, Midwest United FC 05 taking on Michigan Jaguars Novi in that matchup. They also play in the E64. Midwest United FC taking on Nationals Union 05 boys Black in that 8:30 time slot. And the Michigan Rangers FC U19 taking on Michigan Wolves. And then Liverpool FC taking on the Michigan Tigers in that final U19 boys matchup, kicking off at 8:30. That's an early time slot for the 19s. I get why the 15s are at 8:30 in the morning, but 19-year-olds
don't want to get up.
They don't want to get up that early. So
I was saying the same thing. It's like you have to get these kids up at 6:30, eat a breakfast, drive over to the facility, warm up. High school seniors don't want to do that.
No, I mean, of course they don't. Why? Who would want to get up at 8:30 in the morning? I remember, Dan, and I had my senior prom, probably right around this weekend, because I was on Vardar. We had senior prom. It was a Saturday night. We had a Sunday morning game. So I had my prom. I was up all night long. I got up butt crack of dawn, early in the morning on that Sunday morning. Had to drive up to Saginaw. Didn't stay the night in Saginaw. I drove up there to sit on the bench. I did not get in the game at all. We lost to the Michigan Wolves after winning the national championship the year before. Probably because I didn't play.
That's the number one reason, of course. Right?
It's definitely the number one reason. Let's get into the 11 o'clock kickoffs here on that Saturday morning. This is the U14 Boys Elite. TKO Premier taking on Liverpool, the red side from Ann Arbor, kicking off again at that 11 a.m. Nationals Troy, the 2010s, taking on Nationals Capital Area. So, two teams from the same club from different sides of the map will be taking place there in that matchup at 11 a.m. The Michigan Stars taking on the Michigan Jaguars, 2010s. And then the Michigan Tigers taking on the Michigan Wolves to finish off that U14 Boys Elite Division.
So these would be like 8th grade.
That'd be correct.
8th grade boys.
The years always throw me off. Always throw me off. But that's how they do things. And at that level, as we now take a look here at the 2004, continuing the 2014, this is the boys' premiere that we're seeing now. RASC 2010 boys red taking on Saline FC 2010s. The Nationals Macomb 2010s taking on Carpathia Kickers in the premier 2010 age group as well. Michigan Jaguars Jackson taking on Paddo's Magic Black 2010s. And then Detroit City FC Rouge taking on the Thundercats 2010 Orange. Those games all kicking off at 11 a.m. That's the 2014 U14 boys premiere. So just like that, Dan, already through the 11s, not all the 11s, but just those 2014s. Now the 2017s kicking off at 11. I still feel like the 2019 should have been in this 11 o'clock bracket. But either way, TKO Premier taking on the Michigan Jaguars, 2007s. Michigan Tigers taking on Liverpool FC in the Michigan Central. United FC taking on Score Millerstein, 2007, and then the Michigan Jaguars Northville taking on the Michigan Rangers in the boys elite division. And then continuing in this 11 o'clock hour, and this time the 2017 boys premiere, this is the Nationals Macomb taking on, this is a wild card number 1, so we don't know who they're taking place yet, but that National Macomb side. Eastside FC boys taking on Saline FC. Royal Oak FC taking on Midland Fusion. And then Revolution taking on Holland Rovers Warriors in that boys premiere, that final 11 a.m. time slot on Saturday morning.
So those wild cards would be like two teams that tied in round robin, so they have to play like a play-in game at one point this week to decide who advances to the quarters and who is.
Dan, you are spot on, Dan. It's almost as if I told you this before we actually started recording this, what exactly was happening. So, but let's take a look here. On your screen now, we've got the State Cup weekend. These are the teams that are represented. Not all of them made this list, but teams that have multiple teams for their club participating. The Nationals lead the way with 11. The Michigan Jaguars have 10. Liverpool have 9 teams competing. The Michigan Tigers have 6. Michigan Stars have 5. Michigan Wolves have 4. Michigan Rangers have 4. Detroit City FC have 4. And Midwest United have 3. So we're going to be seeing a number of familiar faces and familiar names being called off here throughout the rest of this preview show.
Yeah, and you look player-wise, a lot of these players, if they're not already playing for their respective high schools, there'll be names in the future that we'll be able to cover at that level.
That they will. As we take a look now, Dan, here at the 1:30 time slot. This is your 2013 Boys Elite. You've got the BC Fire SC taking on Revolution 2011s. You've then got Michigan Burn taking on Liverpool, Michigan Central. Michigan Jaguars taking on Plymouth Rain, and Nationals Union taking on Michigan Stars.
1:30. Sounds like there's will be a little bit of a break. As needed. Imagine working an event like this, like being a site manager or working, coordinating the referees, going from one field to the next.
No, Dan, I cannot.
Shouts out to the people that actually run this tournament and volunteer their time year after year. I mean, I don't know how many fields are out there. I know it's a ton, but there's a lot of people that do the background work to make these things run as smoothly as possible. So shout out all of them in advance.
For sure. No, there's no question about that. I mean, we talk about that just to be able to pull off. And this is it's funny because we were talking with Tom Farrow about wanting to take over the broadcast for MSYSA. one of the things we discussed, at the end of the day, while broadcasts are very important, if you put them on the list of important things for Tom Farrow and his group during that weekend, you've got, all these things. I think streaming is probably like 35th on their list. And it's not because it's like the 35th least important thing. It just so happens that, okay, well, players checked in, referees showing up, no problem with weather, fields are cut, lined. I mean, all these things that have to take place well before we ever think about turning a camera on and hitting the button. You know what I mean? And so it's like, it's just one thing that we can take off their plate where they don't have to worry about it. Like, we'll take it from here, and that's something that we really want to make sure we put off them. Like, hey, we'll take care of it. We got you. Just go worry about the other 36 things that are, up here and not necessarily on your top of mind. And that's one of the reasons I think that they love that we're partnering with them, along with the fact that we're here in Michigan, which is also another bonus.
And I'm sure for the club teams that travel quite a distance, you're trying to help coordinate hotel rooms for athletes and coaches. For
sure, no question about that. Coming up here, the U13 Boys Premier, Michigan Tigers Boys Silver taking on Liverpool FC from North Oakland. Michigan Wolves 11 Black taking on Detroit City FC's 11 boys from Rouge. Saline FC taking on Kingdom FC out of Kalamazoo. Farmington Fury taking on Lakeshore FC Premier. We take a look at the other 130. Again, in each slot there are 8 games going on. Cap City from Cap City taking on TKO Premier in the U16 Boys Elite. Revolution taking on Nationals Capital Area Boys Academy. Michigan Rangers FC U16 Boys taking on the Michigan Wolves. And the Liverpool FC North Oakland taking on Michigan Jaguars 2008s. And we've talked about this and we'll put this graphic up here again in a second after we finish the 130s, but a lot of familiar teams being called here in these groupings. As we take a look now at the U16 Boys Premier, Midland Fusion 08's taking on a wild card again in that 130 slot. USA 08 Boys Premier taking on bracket G number 1. So again, another to be determined team. Detroit City FC South Oakland Rouge taking on Detroit City FC Genesee. So interesting if there'll be some bloodshed on that one there, Dan, as two teams from the same club taking on each other in Old Town. I wonder how the Northern Guard would handle that one. I think the Northern Guard would be like at war with one another as they have to, you're sitting there.
We should tweet that out.
We should ask that question.
You got two Northern teams playing each other from the same organization.
MPSA Crush taking on AYSL United in that final pairing of that 130 time slot in the U16 Boys Premier. And now taking a look here at the 16. This would be the 4 o'clock time period. So 1,600 hours. They put this in military time for me, Dan. So I have to do math in your head. Yeah. I have to do the math in my head. This is actually U13 Girls Elite. So there are girls teams that are playing in the State Cup during the spring because of the fact that it's high school age girls who are playing right now. High school soccer, there's still the age group that's playing that U13 that U13 girls pairing. This is the 4 o'clock slot. It's a score Malleus-Stein versus the Michigan Burn. You got Legends FC Elite 64 taking on Nationals Genesee Union. Michigan Rangers FC U13 girls taking on Sporting United. And then the Michigan Tigers FC Elite 64 taking on the Michigan Stars 11 girls Elite 64. So, and then we've got in that same 4 o'clock time slot, we've got Detroit City FC taking on T-Bay North Storm. And then you've got BC Fire taking on Liverpool North Oakland. Warriors SC taking on Lakeshore FC. And then Pass FC taking on Revolution NS 11 Girls Black. Again, that's the U13 Girls Premier Division that's taking place at that 4 o'clock time period. So, Dan, there's the all the games through 4 o'clock. We have a couple more games at 4 o'clock here as well. This is the U18 boys. Now, this is the right time to have U18 boys, is at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday. I think everyone can agree with me on that.
Yeah, they can sleep in a couple hours,
The Michigan Stars, they're taking on Vardar 06 in that time slot. Revolution taking on Nationals Macomb Select. Thundercats taking on Michigan Jaguars Lansing. And then Scores Melistein taking on RASC 2006 in that final 4 o'clock slot there on Saturday afternoon.
You know, you start to see a lot of these clubs, and not just this year, but certain clubs, they just pop up every year in the quarterfinals, the semifinals, and
Every
the
year.
finals.
Every year. And we'll put this graphic up on the screen here. Again, this just shows you these teams. There are a lot of teams playing in this, and we couldn't build a graphic for every single one of them. But, again, you've got the Nationals with 11 teams, Jaguars with 10, Liverpool with 9, the Tigers with 6, Michigan Stars with 5, Michigan Wolves 4, Rangers with 4, Detroit City FC with 4, and Midwest United with 3. And it just goes to show you how many clubs there are in the state and how many of them will have an impact in the State Cup tournament, as well as the teams that, hey, you got 1 or 2 teams from your club make it out there with a chance to hoist a trophy here. Not this weekend, but later on in June.
Yeah, that's interesting to think about how many of these, at least the upperclassmen, that we've seen play at the high school level. And a lot of these clubs, they feed in some really talented high schools. You know, and that's kind of a correlation. Like when you're in a certain area and you have 3 or 4 really good clubs pulling kids out of your school, you know, it's the reversal fact that we see it at the club level as well in the off season.
No question about it. You know, and hey, this preview show, we're going to be getting more into the semifinals and finals here as those games progress. Moving into the fall, we'll actually be at these State Cup tournaments. We'll be at these events where we'll have post-game coverage, interviews, and so much more as part of our new relationship with the MSYSA. Hey, State Cup weekend taking place, the quarterfinals taking place this weekend, everybody, this weekend. We recorded this show on Wednesday morning here in our studios, and we're excited to be able to offer a preview show here for the finals coming up here the first week of June. So a lot to look forward to here on the MSN. If it's your first time stopping by and seeing what we do here at MSN, hit the subscribe button, like us, share this with your friends and family. Make sure you give some love to the MSYSA. They put this thing on. They do a fantastic job. Tom Farrow and his group, Ryan Thiessen, they do a great job there at the MSYSA, and we're extremely privileged and honored to be a part of this process with them. And, hey, those are your previews for this upcoming State Cup weekend. Again, more to come here in the coming weeks in regards to each and every one of these teams who make it further into the State Cup finals here next month here in June.
Yeah, and as teams progress, like the ones that win a State Cup title and go to the Midwest Regional, Region 2, or if they end up getting through the national tournament, we'd like to, do a little bit more profile on some of these teams, talk to the coaches, maybe some players. It's difficult to get to, say, the national quarterfinals.
It is extremely difficult to get there. And then I think the other part of this too, Dan, we didn't talk about this, but the referees. There are 3 teams that take place in every single game out in the world today. You got your 2 teams, your home and away, and you've got the referee crew. And the referees, they go through to be selected for State Cup as a referee is an honor in itself. And I remember the first time that I got the letter in the mail. Back then they gave you a letter. It came in the mail, and it said you were invited to State Cup. And that meant that you were going to travel up there. They got hotel rooms for us. We stayed up. We stayed with other referees, and it was an unbelievable experience to go through that as a referee. So there are referees out there this weekend who have been invited by the referee committee, Carlos Felino and his crew, to go up to State Cup and represent the Michigan referees on the pitch this weekend. And it's an unbelievable experience for them. And they have a chance to be selected, just like the teams who win, to go at the Midwest Youth Regionals, Region 2, and officiate in those games here later this summer. So it is an honor. It's a privilege. And we want to give tip our hats to the referees, the third team on the field here this upcoming weekend.
Yeah, in an average year, like you go to the quarterfinal weekend, and maybe semifinal and final weekend. I mean, how many games would a top official do? You went through this when you were officiator for 20 years.
I mean, on a given day at regionals or in state cup, it was 3 games. You were doing 3 games. Now you could do more than that. What they would typically do is you get 1 middle, 1 fourth, and 1 AR. Typically, I don't know how they do it now. When I went to and was selected to go to regionals, we were given 3 every night before the we have dinner, and they would tell you where you get your schedule. Here's your schedule. You get 3 games. AR, AR, middle and fourth official. Now, there are a lot of referees today that are having to select I'm a ref or I'm a fourth or I'm an assistant. So a lot of times, if you're going down that path of an assistant referee, you might just find yourself doing all assistant lines. And then your centers will do a combination of fourth and center roles. So again, I haven't been in that community in a minute. But again, it's refereeing is an art. You might not realize that, moms and dads. And my next message to you, moms and dads, is that, hey, I know a lot's on the line this weekend. I know your sons and daughters are going to go out there and they're going to compete for a title. All right. And that means that there's something at stake. You win, you go on. If you don't, you go home. Right. So we know that. The referees are under as much pressure as the players are. Probably in a lot of cases more pressure, right? They're being assessed by other officials who are telling them, hey, this is what you're doing right, this is what you can improve on, things like that. They're being assessed. So be patient with them. Just like you should be patient with your son or daughter, right? There's a place and a time to be frustrated. It's not on the sideline of a game. It just isn't. So keep your cool, be respectful of the officials, be respectful of the game, and do your role as a parent, which is to cheer your kids, your sons or daughters on this weekend. Cheer your team on. And hey, at the end of the day, if your team loses, that's life. It's life. That's the way it works. There are a lot of games I won. There are a lot of games I lost. At the end of the day, it was just a game.
That's that time of the year where the finality of is, your club career might come to an end if you're a high school senior. In the upcoming weeks, same thing at the high school girls level. Your career might end.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard because you put so much time into it. You start as a young kid playing rec sports, and here you are playing in the state cup. This, for some of these kids, this is it. They're not gonna have the interest to play in college. I mean, some of these kids will.
Yeah, and again, we say this all the time. I as someone who's a former coach, a former player, a former official, and I'm a parent, I have all perspectives of what the sport and what it looks like. I've been there for all 4 different opportunities, right? And I'm telling you, from the bottom of my heart, just relax. There's not. We get it. We know that there's money being invested. We know that there's time being invested. We know that. There is not a single official out there that's going into your game thinking that they're going to try and screw your team. That's not a thing. Right? I can tell you that. There is not an official out there like that. They're going there to do the best they can. They're seeing what they can see. And hey, sometimes that's not good enough. We know that. We know that. As a former coach, I can tell you it's not good enough. At the same time, they're doing the best that they can. And just like the athletes who make mistakes, so do referees and so do coaches. Let the game be the game, respect the officials, respect the tournament. And I promise you, at the end, regardless of what happens on the scoreboard, everybody wins. Because in the game of life, there are winners and there are losers, and you have to overcome that adversity. And that is an expectation when you sign on that dotted line to put your kids into athletics, whether that's soccer or another sport. And respect the game and respect the officials, and it will help the game continue to grow and allow us to get more officials back into this game that have already left. So, but hey, congratulations to those of you that have made it to the MSYSA State Cup quarterfinals this weekend. We are excited for you. We are behind each and every one of you, and we're excited to continue to talk about your teams here as you move forward in the process of State Cup. I want to thank our partners, the Michigan State Youth Soccer Association, Tom Fair and Ryan Thiessen. You guys have been fantastic, and we look forward to bringing you more and more coverage of State Cup here in the future. For all of us here at the Michigan Soccer Network, Dan Stickrat, I'm Jonathan Turner. So long, everybody.
you.